All right, what is up, guys? This is DDP, joined once again by Big Game James of Silver and Blue Nation, and today we are talking Dallas Mavericks. First week of the season is up for them. We're talking report card. James, how are you doing?
I'm feeling good. I'm feeling great. Mavericks are doing good. That's always good. I think the future is bright, and I'm excited to see what the Mavs are going to do this year.
Oh, 100%. So, as I mentioned, this is the first week of the season out of the way for the Mavericks. They started last Wednesday. It's now Wednesday. So we're 4 games into the books, and Dallas has started off pretty strong, really. 3-1 overall. The one loss, even in that, you had multiple chances in the final minute to get the job done. So not a whole lot to be upset about. In fact, I would have been more upset about that loss to Portland had they not done what they did last night and go into Denver. And even though Luka struggled and KP struggled, as a team, they were all there. You had 2 guys with 14 points, yet you had 9 of your 10 players get you double digits. And as a result of that whole team performance, here you are walking out of Mile High City with one of the most impressive wins of the young season, I think.
Yeah, I definitely agree with you with that. I'm gonna be honest with you. I was very surprised that Dallas got that victory, especially in Denver.
Yep.
You had mentioned it on your show how it'd been a long time, and then they had Denver has swept us. So, Denver's a good team. They got some good players. Djokovic. They got Murray. They got a good piece. What's the power forward they got over there? Came from Atlanta. Not Jokic, the power forward. What's his name? He's good.
Now you're putting me on the spot, and I'm blanking on the name. Let me double check. It's annoying me that it's on the tip of my tongue.
It's gonna come up. It's gonna come up. But they got some good players, like I said, on Paul Millsap.
Millsap, yes, he was cooking us early on.
Cooking us, and he's a good player. I mean, he's been a good player since he's came in the league. So I was very surprised. I didn't want to feel this way, but I was like, I think we're gonna just lose this one. But we're doing better. So to see, like you said, the way we came out and won that game. 109 points, and our top 2 guys play like not good at all. And you had a lot of the bench players coming up and stepping up. That gives you hope because we're so dominated with Luka and KP right now. You wonder, like, if they have, you always wondered, well, at least I wondered, like, man, what if they have a bad game? Both of them have bad game. Who's going to pick it up? Are we going to be able to win that game, or are we going to get blown out? So that gives you hope heading to the future and the rest of this season that, hey, if those guys struggle, you got other guys that can pick it up, and that's a good thing.
Well, sure. And we talked all through the offseason about how the Mavericks, while they don't have that third guy per se, I know they want to tell us it's Tim Hardaway Jr. or DeLon Wright. It's not. Hardaway Jr., he was finally really good for them last night. In that victory, he was one of the guys with 14 points, and he shot 5 of 9 overall. I think it was 4 of 6 from 3. So that's what you need from him off the bench, but this is the first game you got that from him. His thing is, he is a talented scorer, but he's also a volume shooter, and he doesn't shoot great percentages throughout his career. He had a couple of years in Atlanta where it was really nice, but I just don't think he's that right guy for us, even though his $20 million price tag suggests he should be that guy. So it is what it is in that regard. You're going to have a complete team with the Mavericks, though. Before J.J. Brea's Achilles injury last year, the Mavericks had one of the 2 or 3 best benches in the league, I felt. And what really... That came apart a lot after the Brea thing because he was kind of the maestro of that whole thing. He's a great playmaker, can get his teammates involved in everything, and was having the best year of his career up until that injury. So while he hasn't played yet this year, I felt like the bench was going to rebound pretty well, and then you add in some guys as well, like Seth Curry and them, and it felt like, okay, we've added in some pretty good scoring. We've got a lot of continuity with a lot of these guys we're bringing back, like Dorian Finney-Smith. They brought him back. They brought back Maxey, Dwight Powell. I know some of those are starters. I'm just throwing out the continuity that they were building with the team. I felt really strong that they were going to have a good bench, and it's only the second time in NBA history that team had 9 different guys score in double figures in a single game. So last night's not nothing. Like, everybody ate in that game. You had a balanced approach for everything. So even though Luka and KP, it wasn't by any means their most efficient games of their career. Hell, when you get 22 points out of them and shoot 58% on free throws, the fact that you walked out of a place like Denver with a win is nothing short of like a miracle practically.
I totally agree with you with that. And it was a good day for KP. Even though he didn't have a great shooting performance, he did have a very good rebounding performance. I believe he got 14 rebounds in that game.
Yep.
So that was good to see because, he hasn't been the great rebounder since he's been there. He has potential to be a good rebounder because of his size and length. But it was good to see that even though he didn't do it on the scoring end, he made up for it on the rebounding end. And that's what we're going to need from him going forward.
Yeah.
Because we don't really, and me and you have talked about this, that what I really feel like the Mavericks are really missing is that Tyson Chandler type guy, that rugged inside center that's just going to do the dirty work, get boards, rebound, block shots. And then those guys like KP can focus on scoring and doing the other things. But we don't have that right now with that inside presence, I don't believe. So KP is really going to have to step up on the rebounding end for us going on in the future. Because if you look at the stats as a whole right now, our team stats, I thought rebounding was going to be a problem for the Mavericks this year. And if you look as a whole, we're ranked 21st overall and 17th in offensive rebounding. And I think when we go against those bigger type teams, that might be an issue that may creep up later on.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And it just goes to show, like, I don't think KP is going to be a strong rebounder for us. He's never been that in his whole career. I think his best year of his career was like something like 7.2 boards. But he's usually a guy that gets you about 6 boards in a game. And that's, that is what it is. So his numbers the first 2 games were lower than that, and that has been one of the points of contention I've had with his early performance for the Mavericks. And there are people who say, well, I'd rather have the 5 blocks rather than 10 rebounds. Sure, I can see how you're changing the game, but a rebound is still securing a possession, whereas a block shot, we've seen it happen this year. He'll block a shot, but the other team will keep the ball and then splash a 3 on the same possession. So It's one of those things where it's a give and take. A block is an energy play more so than a rebound is. Yes, I grant that. But at the same time, there is a line to walk there. And just because you're getting a lot of block shots, yes, that shows that you're impacting the game, and that's great. His presence, even when he's not getting blocks, he's altering shots, and that is very, to your point, Tyson Chandler, like just being a rim protector who makes guys change the angle of their shot, the timing of their shot, whatever, because they're worried about you getting a piece of the ball. That is valuable, but you can't just do that. You can't just get 5 blocks and then 4 rebounds. He's done much better the last 2 games, particularly last night, to your case, 14 boards. I know that's not going to be the typical thing from him, but if he can give me 7 or even 8, I'm thrilled, because that's a step up for him, and he still can give you that shot blocking dynamic. Even at times on jump shots, he got a piece of Paul Millsap's mid-range jumper early on in that game when Millsap was trying to go off, and it kind of steadied things down a little bit, I thought, for Dallas defensively.
Right. Yeah, I agree with you. I would love to see him. He can, but you know what, DDP, he can. It's not. That's the thing I get frustrated maybe with a little bit with KP, because he could be a double-digit rebounding guy. I mean, he doesn't have to be an enforcer type, but he could still be a 10 rebound guy. Like, he has it in him. You just need to pull it out of him. And to your point about the block shots, I definitely agree with you. He's like averaging, I believe, almost 2 block shots a game. But when you see a lot of the top shot blockers, as you said, when they block the shot, they more like kind of tip it and then they grab it.
Yeah.
You get what I'm saying? And then it turns a possession for the offense. We're running down the court and we're going on possession to score. I've seen the block shots that he has, and just like you said, he'll block it, but it go to the opposition. They pick up the ball, shoot a 3, or get the offensive rebound from the block shot, go back and score, possibly get a 3-point play. So when he's blocking those shots, it's got to be more of hitting it in the air, securing it, and then taking it down to the court for your team.
Yeah, absolutely. And, it's been a lot of good things for the Mavericks early on this year. You've had moments with KP and Luka going off. This last game was the only one where they didn't go off. Again, only 22 combined points there, but you still come out with a win. In Washington, KP started slow. That was the first game, not in Washington, but in the Washington game, opening night for Dallas last Wednesday. He started slow in that game, 4 of 12, but he ended up with, I think it was 23 points and something like 7 of 16 shooting. So he bounced back into form in that game. And I think we've really seen him knock off a lot of the rust. His 3-point shot still isn't there percentage-wise. He was shooting, salute to our new subscriber, Odell Paul.
Salutes.
We saw him, his 3-point shot is not quite there percentage-wise yet. He's still hanging somewhere around the vicinity of, I don't know his percent off the top of my head now that I start that point, but before his injury, he was shooting about 40% from 3. That's stellar. He's not doing that early on. Again, it's 4 games, so I'm not sweating it. He's going to get tons of spot-up looks that we've seen. Dallas is very good at moving the ball and creating those opportunities, especially Luka Doncic is very good at creating those opportunities. So I'm not the least bit worried at all about the prospect of him getting that kind of impact. So I want to see that round into form, but it's a thing as well where I feel like Dallas is doing a lot of trade-off hero ball early on. Maybe not so much hero ball. That might be a little too harsh of a term, but it feels very much like Luka and KP taking turns as opposed to them actually going in and doing as much pick and roll. Like I want to see more Luka KP pick and roll and things like that.
Devastating. That's unguardable, DDP. We see the pick and roll work so much in the NBA. That's like the staple in the NBA, that pick and roll. If you have a guy, that's why they were talking about LeBron James and Anthony Davis. Like you got those two, you run that pick and roll because it's like who you going to guard. Pick your poison. When you do that pick and roll, they're going to drop it off, or I'm going to hit you with the J or go to the hole, drop it off. It's so devastating, especially when you can roll it to perfection. Karl Malone, John Stockton used to kill people with that pick and roll all day. That was their mainstay. So I agree with you. They definitely have to get that rocking and rolling because you have your two of your best players, and if you're rolling that pick and roll with them two, it's going to almost be impossible to guard. But also to your point, when we're talking about KP, his season averages right now are 22 points, 3 assists, and he's out almost 8 boards, 7.8 rebounds a game. So he's at where you want DDP. And also where you're talking about the 3-point percentage, I do think that's going to get better because he has a natural feathery touch. So I believe that's percentage is going to come up. Right now he's shooting 33% from the 3-point range, but it's only 4 games in. He missed all of a lot of the last year. So I think more getting under his feet, more getting familiar with the system, more getting familiar with Luka and those type of things, you're going to see that feathery touch, especially from the 3-point line, start shooting up a little bit higher as we go on.
For sure. And as James W. points out, his 3-point percentage, it feels like it's dragged down the last couple games. It's still 33%. So it's not like it's dropped out and he's shooting in the 20s or something like that. So that is encouraging. Now we just got to see if he can get that percentage moving a little bit more in the right direction. I think he should be probably 37% roughly because, again, he's going to get a lot of open looks, and when you're 7'3", you can shoot over pretty much anybody in that regard. So I want to see Dallas improve on that. One thing I think has been an interesting storyline early on is the rotations have been very interesting in Dallas. Other than Luka and KP, we have pretty much mix and matched everything early on. Like you had DeLon Wright in and out of the starting lineup, from starting at point guard to starting at power forward to being a bench player the other 2 games. You had Seth Curry finally get back into the starting lineup last game, yet his minutes and his shot attempts and points and all that pretty much were in line with what he's been doing coming off the bench. Like, it seems like we're mixing and matching a lot, which I actually like because it builds a little bit more continuity and familiarity with all the different combinations of your team. It's not like, okay, I got this 1 or 2 lineup I can run out there, and I just have to hope that those guys work. No, you got to figure out how to make it work from top to bottom with your roster. It doesn't matter if you're rolling out your 7th guy off the bench or your 12th guy off the bench. There are going to be nights where you need them to be able to play off of each other well. And so I really do like the degree with which we've changed it up. The only thing I would say maybe is Courtney Lee got starts in the first 2 games of the year against Washington and then at New Orleans. And the Washington game, he at least played like 16 minutes. So it was like, okay, I definitely didn't see that coming, but whatever. But when we gave him the start against New Orleans, but then only played him 6 minutes, it was like, what was the point of that exactly?
Yeah,
what was that? That's the only kind of thing there. I don't know what their plan is with him.
Yeah, and it's so hard because with Courtney Alexander, he's been with so many teams. It's like you almost don't know what to do with him. But he'll come in. I think he's better off the bench because he comes in and he's one of those volume type of scorers. He can come in and score a lot of points for you, play good defense. I like him in that aspect. But like you said, there's a lot of mixing and matching going on. I think I kind of like it in the sense that maybe the defense doesn't get a beat on who's going to start and who's going to be in the game, so we don't know. So I kind of like it in that aspect. But I would like to see them eventually settle down with a solid starting 5. But you got so many moving parts and pieces. It's almost like if you're playing Luke at the point, you got so many options, especially at the 2. I mean, you can play Curry. I mean, you can move right. I mean, you can move different guys. And Hardaway. You can mix and match so many players with that guard position. So that's why I think Rick is trying to figure out who I really want to go with, who's going to really be my staple, because it's a lot of guards on this team. Good guards. I like Brunson, and I think just a lot of those guys can add elements. So that's where he's probably trying to figure out what's going to be the best thing to flow with Donich going forward.
Yeah, absolutely. And through these first few games, they've had a mix of competition, right? Like Washington, we know Washington's a bad team, but they still have a talented player in Bradley Beal. In that game, he didn't shoot well at all, and that was in large part, as I was kind of taking a shot earlier at Courtney Lee a little bit. Courtney Lee played him well from the jump. Now the Mavericks they did throw other guys at him and all that, but he was held to a really bad night shooting. I think he had like 19 points, nearly had a triple double, but he had 19 points on like 25 shots. It was like 7 of 19 or 7 of 25 shooting. So he was held in check in that, and then it seemed like they maybe thought that they were going to run something similar with New Orleans having him back out there, and then maybe made a quick adjustment. But that New Orleans win to me was the first real test for this team, because New Orleans, I said this at the time in the postgame show,
they're not a bad team.
They're really not. Like, I thought without Zion, I was like, this is going to really hurt them in the first 6 to 8 weeks, however long he's out for the season. This is going to hurt them, and they're going to be trying to dig out of this hole. And then we watched that game, and I was like, dude, they're actually going to be like a legitimate, even with Zion missing as much time as it sounds like he will, they're going to be a legitimate team in the chase for that playoff spot. And that was, I thought, a great character win for Dallas late in that game, crunch time, making plays, and to come out of that with a 7-point win, I think was just a really good showing. You saw a lot of what Luka and KP could do, and I think game one they combined for like 57. I don't remember how many they had between the two of them in game two, but it felt like a very balanced thing. Like, you had guys all up and down the roster making plays. Seth Curry made his first real big presence known in that game. Let's see, Luka had 25, KP had 24. So they had 49 between them. But Luka went for the triple-double that game, and KP was like 24 and 4 with 5 blocks. I think that was his 5-block game. So shout out again, Eastside Harold, who's going for the trolling route on donation. That's a really interesting tactic.
How you want. I like a hater that donates. So, hey, we love you, Eastside Harold. And like I said, I think you're a fan on the low. You like them Dallas Cowboys. You like them Dallas Mavs. You like them all. Don't you lie to us.
Yeah. Anyway, so I thought that was a great character win for Dallas in New Orleans. And that was when I kind of took my first look at this team and thought, okay, this could be a much better team than we thought. I was projecting before the season started that I felt like the roster as currently constructed feels like a 44-win team to me, but I anticipate them making some kind of trade deadline move that could maybe help them steal some more games and slip into the playoffs. And obviously through 1 week, it's way too early to say, but at the same time, okay, you started 3-1, and we've talked before about disastrous starts for this team in recent years. Right. Obviously it's a bigger than a 4-game sample, but in the 2016-17 season that ended up netting you Dennis Smith Jr. in the lottery, that year you started off something like 4-17 through your first 21 games. I mean, it was abysmally bad. It was like your 10-game samples were like 1-9, 3-7, and 2-8 in the last 3 years for what your record looked like. So to start quick this year, I think, is massive. I think it's good that you don't fall behind the 8 ball. You keep that energy and everything moving in the right direction, and it keeps guys motivated, right? It's not just a matter of like, oh, come on, guys, we're not this bad. We got to try and show up. But at the same time, it's hard to keep that same kind of spiteful energy going as much. I think it's easier to get the ball rolling when you start hot and you're like, no, we know we belong here, and we're showing that we belong here. And I feel like Dallas has really done that well. I think that the fact that they had that great win in New Orleans allowed them to come back to Portland, who was a Western Conference finalist last year, and they were a 3 seed the year before as well in the playoffs. And that they allowed them to go down to the wire in a game that Dallas probably shouldn't have. I know Luka got nearly a triple-double again in that game, but that was a game that Dallas just did not play well at all in the second half. And for them to come out like that, I felt like that was carryover from the confidence-building win in New Orleans. And you're like, well, at the end, it really came down to us just kind of playing ourselves a little bit. So I don't even think that the loss to Portland hurt their confidence at all.
I don't think it did. I think actually, I'm not going to say it gave them confidence, but I mean, Portland, they got that nasty backcourt. They got Portland's got a pretty good nucleus. I mean, they're not bad at all. And for us to play them the way we played them, I'm be honest with you, when we played them saw them on the schedule, I thought, you know what, them 2 guards are going to work us. That was my first initial thought. Yeah, I mean, that's hard to stop them too. I mean, they're going to work anybody in the league, but I thought it was just going to be more of a 10-point loss, 12-point loss because those guys will probably pull away, hitting them shots later on. And the fact that we still banged with them, I feel like it's giving the team confidence. And just like you said, right now 3-1, 4 games in, we know it's a long, long season, but I think people understand that you got to really start. You got a really good nucleus with KP and Luka, and people understand that this is their squad. So I think everybody else is kind of just formulating around that. And when people start to figure out the roles, it makes your team roll and be better because people aren't going to go outside the box and try to do what they can't do when they understand this is what this team is make up, and these are our guys that are going to do it. Score when you need to, but in the end of the day, these are our two guys, and we're going to funnel our offense through them.
Yeah. No, for sure. And, the one issue I do kind of have with the team, rebounding hasn't been as much of an issue, although I do think we've been out-rebounded. And, I think we might have been out-rebounded in all 4 games. I'd have to look that up real quick. But that is an issue where they can certainly afford to improve. They could certainly not hurt themselves if they were to improve on the rebounding end. But at the same time, it hasn't been the Achilles heel for this team yet that I feared that it would be. What has been a problem for me is field goal percentage allowed right around the rim. Like, yeah, you got KB, you can block shots, and Maxey is a good shot blocker as well. But this team, even in the Washington game, they were out-rebounded. So they have been out-rebounded in every game this year. But that's the one thing is that we're allowing a really high field goal percentage right at the rim. I feel like our interior defense is a little suspect. Yeah. You got a bunch of guys who can guard pretty well at the perimeter, but once you get past that and start to threaten in that mid-range, or especially if you can get to the rim, there's just so many dump-offs for dunks or layups or whatever. That is all things that this team is going to have to address because against better teams, that will be abused, especially in today's league. Now, it's kind of funny because Portland killed us in the mid-range, which kind of goes counterintuitive to where the rest of the league, it seems like they're trying to head lately, where everything's a 3 or right at the rim. Portland kind of went into the soft spot of that defense in the mid-range game, and it seemed like they shot freaking 90%, whether it was McCollum, whether it was Lillard, or whoever. Rodney Hood had a great game against us too in that, and that's an area where Dallas is going to have to improve. That interior defense is going to need somewhat of a lift, and I don't know how they go about that right now. I don't see a guy like we've talked about the Tyson Chandler thing, and that for Mavs fans, that's just the easiest comp to say the type of player we need. I don't know where exactly to look for that at this particular juncture. I think they just have to figure out how to either patch the hole as best they can or to run something out there to at least try and say, hey, we're just going to try and outscore you, and if you can do enough damage in that spot to counteract us scoring 120, 130, whatever, then more power to you,
Yeah, I feel you. That's been the sticking point with us. I feel like the last few years is that we haven't had that enforcer, and just like you said, I just don't feel like we have even a rugged rebounder, that guy that's just nasty. That he ain't even worried about scoring. He's just getting to get you 13 boards. You thought you maybe had that in DeAndre Jordan. When you got him,
he got the boards. He just didn't try very hard.
Right, exactly, because we saw what the attitude was. But that's a guy that you would love to have had right now with your nucleus if he had the right mindset. I mean, I would love to have a DeAndre Jordan with the mindset that he had. If he had the right mindset, pairing with the KP, now you feel a little bit better because you have a guy that can block shots. You have a guy who's an enforcer and a guy who can get rebounds. And like you said, teams that will drive to the hole or go to a sweet spot hitting the mid-range jump from the foul line in or around that area, when they get in that area, they miss that shot and they have a good rugged inside game. That's where I could feel the second, third attempt shots could be really affecting us. So this game that we got coming against the Lakers, I'm really interested to see how that goes. Now, I've been talking a lot of trash to people because, I've been hyped up and talking Mavs and everybody, LA, we're going to whoop y'all. So, you know what? I accept the challenge, and I hope the Mavericks do too. I really want to see how the Mavericks are going to look like against these Cavs, especially Anthony Davis.
Yeah, that is going to be the real challenge for Dallas in that situation because the front court players have kind of hurt them the last couple games, it seems like. Or, excuse me, Portland, it was the backcourt players. But it seemed like Utah or Denver's front court did a lot of damage in this game. We talked about Millsap, and obviously Jokic is Jokic. He got a triple-double, 10, 10, and 10. And it seems like something they're going to have to contend with for Dallas for the front court, because Anthony Davis is a guy who can stretch the floor. He was 40 points, 20 rebounds in their last game. I think I saw that was the first front court player for the Lakers to put up those numbers since Shaq, like back in 03 or some nonsense. So that is going to be a true test. You got LeBron. Kuzma's going to be back for that game you're hearing. So they have a major test ahead of them. It's just a matter of how they can respond and if they can continue to build on this. If they can, I don't even want to say that they have to beat the Lakers. Obviously, at this juncture of the year, you don't have to do anything. But if you can have another really good showing against them, then I think you're going to start to see a lot more heads turning around the league and all that with regard to Dallas. Because early on, 3-1 or not, they might perk up a little bit hearing that we won in Denver with Luka and KP being kind of held in check. They might think that, but they'll probably also look at it and say, well, the bench had 61. So maybe that kind of goes against the narrative of, hey, it's Dallas's big two and then a bunch of scrap parts, which a lot of people seem to think. Maybe it goes a little bit against that, but unless you can do something against the Lakers now at this point, then you can start to really turn things around, because after that, you got a really weak stretch of your schedule. You have teams like Memphis, Cleveland, Orlando. Like, you have a chance to build momentum after that. The Knicks, after the Lakers, you got Cleveland, Orlando, New York, Memphis, Boston. So that's a tougher team in the East, although they're a little down as well. New York again, after that, before it gets back to the really tough teams when you have to start contending with San Antonio's, Golden State's, who knows what they are right now, Houston, etc. So you can build momentum, and if you get to that point, you can start turning some heads. But I just feel like this team, they don't have that third guy. And I understand if you got several guys who can give you at or reaching to double-digit points, it won't matter as much. You don't have to have a quote-unquote third guy. It's not Justin Jackson early on, although I do really like what he's bringing, and I still would like to see more.
I like Justin Jackson, though.
Oh, yeah. I would love to see more from Justin Jackson. Now, as much as we've tweaked the lineups and had guys starting in and out and all that, we have yet to run him out there. So I'm still leading that charge, trying to get him into the starting lineup. But
right.
Even with that, like, there are guys out there. DeLon Wright has been very good for Dallas as well. I had a note on him somewhere, I think. He's been quietly playing very, very well for Dallas. And let's see here. So here's DeLon Wright's on-floor splits after 100 minutes this year. A 115.5 offensive rating, a 106.8 defensive rating. So you see, obviously, the plus-minus when he's on the floor versus not. Basically, turnover percentage, like forcing turnover percentage, 7.7%. He's forcing a lot of steals this year. Efficiency field goal percentage of 55.2%. 16.8 fast break points per 100 possessions. And opponent turnover rate is 14.9. So his turnover rate is, I guess, 7.7. Excuse me, I flipped those. And he's shooting 76% and 76.5% inside the restricted area. The dude's doing everything we thought he would do. But I said I didn't believe that he was like a splashy guy, that he was going to be a guy that kind of quietly paces things. And other than when he's had a couple stretches of forcing like 2 or 3 quick steals in succession, that's pretty much what he's been. He just kind of quietly goes about his business while the Luka and KP do their work.
Well, I know I'm be honest with you. I mean, me and you talked about this off air, and you said Hardaway Jr. was the volume scorer, but we haven't really seen it. His percentage obviously is not that great from 3-point range. I think he's shooting like under 30% right now for 3-point range. He's streaky. But, man, if he could just put it together, man, he could really be that third option that we really need. He could be that 14-point scorer for the I'm about to say the Cowboys. For the Mavericks, he could be that 14-point guy that could really – Tim Hardaway, I like his game. I just really want him to be consistent, like you were saying, DDP. Be consistent. We need you to consistently hit shots. You got to get that 3-point percentage up. You got to get your field goal percentage up, because he could be that third type of wheel that could, like I said, can get you that 14 to 15 points on a nightly basis. And when he gets hot, he can score in volumes. So I'm really wanting him to step up his game so he can be that option. Right now, I just feel like we got a lot of guards and not a lot of big people. I'm looking in the comments right here, and I noticed some people were talking about Sabonis, Steven Adams,
Well, Sabonis
Kevin
just
Love.
got a new deal. He's not going anywhere.
Exactly. So he ain't going nowhere. Steven Adams, I don't know what the OKC. I would love to have some Steven Adams.
OKC's willing to move him. In fact, OKC is pretty much willing to move anybody at this point. I'm betting that they trade Gallinari, Paul, and possibly even Steven Adams before the year's up, honestly. I could be wrong, but the one thing they won't trade is Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. No way they move him. But everyone else, I think they're open to. Adams, he's great. 25-year-old big man, can rebound, can play tough-nosed defense, great screen setter, very, very popular, very good hustle player. But he's not a guy that's going to blow you away, and he does have big money owed to him, but he's also only 25 despite all of his experience. So his problem is, I think, foot speed between him and KP for your front court would be extremely suspect.
Yeah, true story. Those smaller guys would go at them and really attack them, taking them to the hole. And even if they miss the shot, if you're real aggressive, because they are slow-footed, they'll be slower to jump off the ground after the second leap.
Yeah,
that's when those guys can get those multiple rebounds and take it back in and possibly scoring and getting and ones.
Yeah, no, absolutely. One guy that I want to talk about here as a possible, as we talk about if the third guy is on this team, for this team, I think Brunson's getting kind of overlooked. Now, he's been a little bit hit or miss early on this year, but we know how good he was last year. And here's something for context. In the first game of the season against Washington, he had 4 turnovers. He hasn't had a damn turnover since. Like, he has absolutely corrected that issue. He's been much better for Dallas, and he is a guy that can make big plays for you. He's kind of a wily veteran player. I don't think he has a particularly high ceiling, but he's a very quality player for you.
Steady.
I like him better off the bench, but hey, man, your third man can come off the bench. Like, in fact, I think it's almost better that way, and the fact that he's a point guard or backcourt player kind of works better to that effect, whether it's him sharing the floor with Luka or when he's kind of able to run things a little bit more himself. I think he is a, to your point, steady, pace the offense kind of guy that could have a big impact on this team. And I don't like when people talk about, like, oh, well, this team needs to look at a trade for, like, Chris Paul. People are still trying to talk about Chris Paul on this team.
No, we've got a point guard.
Why do you think the answer is to take the ball out of Luka's hands?
No, Luka got to keep that ball in his hands. That's why you got rid of Dennis Smith Jr., correct?
Yeah. Exactly. And it's like, do you really want a guy that is, like, at age 37 is going to be making like $40 million? Is that your answer to your third man problem? It's certainly the answer to your not wanting to have any cap money to spend problem, because good God, like, there's no way Chris Paul is a worthwhile thing for this. Now, I know Harden and him did okay working together, but even that was, 2 years and they blew it up? Like, it makes zero sense, but you'll still see people talking about that and speculating on it, and it's mind-boggling. Like, I literally saw a video earlier today from another outlet talking about that, and I was like, why on earth are you still talking about this? If of all the things we need, Chris Paul and a point guard isn't it. Like, Luka basically runs as the point guard anyway. So just stop, guys. Just stop. Look at a center, look at a front court player, or if you insist on looking at a wing or something, fine. But let's have a better discussion than Chris Paul at this stage in his career.
Yeah, it's. I think that's the lazy kind of analogy people do. Oh, Chris Paul, because he was a free agent and you traded him here and what he could bring to. No, like you said, no. This is Luka's team. Okay, the KP second. This is Luka's team, and Luka runs that show with that ball in his hand. Luka is better with the ball in his hands, and we don't need no little guard dominating the ball, coming in here, old veteran, feel like he done did it all, so everybody got to listen to him. No, we don't need that fray within the locker room as well. You get what I'm saying? I think the locker room is steady the way it is. You just maybe possibly add somebody later, like a big man, like you were talking. Because like I said, we got guards. We guard dominated, if you ask me, and we got small forwards. We need big men, okay? We need a big man. We need big men, period. I like Cleveland, but those guys aren't physical. Those guys can step out and hit threes for you as well. You get what I'm saying?
Right.
He's not a physical guy. He's tall, but he's not rugged. You get what I mean? We need a rugged guy who's just specifically that. So if that can happen down the line, but to your point with Brunson, I really like Brunson. I liked his game last year, and I'm agreeing with you with him coming off the bench. I like Seth Curry starting. That's just me.
Yeah.
Because if Luka's starting at the point, now you got a guy who can shoot, can concentrate on his shooting. Luka get into the hole, kick it back out. Steph Curry, bow. That's what he does. So I like Curry in that aspect. And then you could bring a Brunson off and just kind of let him do his thing. Just like you said, I don't think he's that ceiling where he's going to continue just to get awesomely better, but he's going to be a steady player for you, and he's going to get buckets for you. I think he's averaging close to 7, 8, 9 points a game. So I like what he brings to the table, and he's got pretty good size, and he can play off or the point, so you can mix and match him in different ways. So I really like him, and I want to see what he's going to do going forward. But I do like, me personally, I like to even see Hardaway coming off the bench. I think Hardaway's better off the bench. Okay.
Yeah.
And I like to see Steph Curry at the 2. Even though he's not a big 2 guard and he's going to be a liability on the defensive end, I still like him as far as
he's
that
6'3".
scoring option.
He's not that small. For a 2 guard, he's not that small.
But if you're playing the 2 guard, though, they're gonna isolate him, and a big guard is going to take him in the post.
If they post him up, then you're in trouble if they're posting him up. But if he's guarding him on the perimeter, he's actually a good perimeter defender. I think he's one of those guys you're never going to throw him out there and be like, all right, lock him down. Just like you wouldn't say that to Luka. But if you're putting him within kind of a perimeter defense within like the team defensive scheme, I think he can be serviceable and savvy. And we've seen him come up with some big plays even on the defensive end this year. So I like Curry a lot. In fact, I was and you may know this, and certainly a lot of the people in the chat. By the way, shout out to the like 80 or you or however many are in here right now.
Yeah, dope.
Yeah.
Nice.
When we lost Curry after the 2017-18 season, Dennis Smith's rookie year, he didn't play at all that year because of a stress reaction in his leg. I was ticked off to lose him to Portland because that dude can flat shoot the ball. The best year of his career was here in Dallas. I think that was a big part of why he came back to Dallas. Because even though he shot 45% last year with Portland, he was still a bench guy. I think he started 1 game on the year, and he averaged like 8 points. Now, I'm not saying he's going to be a guy that by the end of the year you're going to look at him and be like, oh, yeah, he's your 3rd guy right there, 14 points a game and whatever. No, I think about what you're seeing from him now is what you're going to get. You're going to get something like 25 to 28 minutes a night. You're going to get something in the range of, I would say, low-end 10 to 13 points maybe. And 13 would make me thrilled. I want to see him get more 3-point looks. I feel like he's not taking all the opportunities he has there. But even still, he's a quality guy. And you've seen in the last couple games, he's made big plays for this team. He's turned the momentum. You saw it in New Orleans. You saw it in the Portland game. And you saw it a little bit even when he got that start in Denver. He can make plays and he can come through in the clutch, and he is one of the probably best overall shooters in the league. He just doesn't have the explosiveness or whatever for some of those other guys. And so if you can spoon feed him wide open looks like I think this offense can, like Luka can, then there's no reason he shouldn't be able to give you even more than we're getting out of him right now. That to me is why I labeled him as an X Factor candidate for this team. One of the guys that people didn't think much about, kind of glossed over, like, oh, Dallas re-signed him to a 4-year deal, whatever. Like, that's not much of an addition. I'm saying I think it's a really big addition as long as you can use him right, and Carlisle has shown that he can use him right, and now we actually have talent around him that should let him sign. He averaged 12.5 points for us the last time he was here. So the guy can do something, and now he's actually got talent around him that should be able to assist that even further.
And he comes from a good lineage. Okay, he's not a guy that's scared of the moment. He played at Duke. He's not scared of the moment. Made big shots when he was at Duke. And like you said, he's not scared of, hey, if the game is on the line, you kick it out to him. He's not the type of guy, I'm gonna pass it. He'll take that shot. He'll take that big shot because he's not scared of it, because he has confidence in his shot. So that's why I like him starting at that position at the 2 guard, because just like you said, Luka can get to the hole. And Luka's a creator. And when Luka gets to that hole and they're going to collapse on him because he's earned a little bit of that reputation right now, that's when you see a Curry float out there and bam. That's what you really want to see. That's what I want to see Luka really go hard at and really give Curry his opportunities, because that can be all day, because they're going to guard Luka when he goes to that hole. Period, point blank.
Yep. No, 100%. And to your point as well, as you mentioned Luka getting to the rim and everything, here's a stat I grabbed. I found this a while back on Reddit. So this is dating back to last year. It says Doncic was getting to the rim at will since the beginning of February for the Mavericks when they made the trade for Porzingis. He was 5th in drives during that time among all players at 18.3 a game. For context, Russell Westbrook was first with 20.2. So he was right there basically with the leader. and Harden was then next at 19.4. And all of that basically was when Luka wasn't in what we considered as good of shape. You know what I mean? Like that was the whole thing this offseason was him getting leaner, meaner, all that. He can get to the rim at will. And I think as he's kind of settling into the start of this year, I think you'll see more of those opportunities, more of those drive and kick opportunities. He's getting, I think, eight potential assists more per game than he's able to reflect on his actual stat sheet, which means basically he's getting there, kicking out to a guy for the shot. The guy's just not hitting the shot on 8 of those per game. So if the shooting can lift a little bit, elevate itself a little bit, whether it's Curry, whether it's KP, who we mentioned earlier, he's been kind of struggling on some of his spot-up shots as of late, you have a chance for Luka's numbers to elevate even further. And we're talking about he has 1 triple-double already, missed it by 1 assist the next game against Portland. So there is a lot that you can do, and it just shows the offense can still kick into another gear. They've scored at least 109 points at least 108 every game this year. Quick calculation, I could tell you their average scoring per year, but it's still just one of those things where it's like the defense is going to be a little bit of a work in progress. They're good in stretches, but the offense should be there. Pretty healthy supply already, for the most part, already is, and it can only get better as guys get more comfortable and Luka starts to take over more.
Yeah. I think they're averaging about 103, maybe a little more, 104.
No, it's more than that.
Is it more than that? Are you sure?
Yeah. You talking about offense or defense?
Offensively.
Offensively is definitely more than that because they've scored at least 108 in every game.
Okay.
So, yeah, no, it's let's see here. Let's see. Someone throw it in the chat because apparently me on the spot doing calculation is not my strong suit.
And we got them stat munchers in there too. We got a lot of stat people in there, which I love.
115.25 points.
Okay, I like that.
So yeah, their offense is doing better in that regard, and that's obviously a markup from where they were last year as well. And again, the shooting hasn't fully been there. You've only really because you've had one game where the bench blew up. Annie and I, when we did the game companion Sunday night against Portland, we were talking about how, man, the bench, they made some shots late, like Curry made some shots late, but the bench just really didn't show up quite like we needed them to for this game. Luka and KP did their thing, but they didn't do it as efficiently as we would like. The three-point shooting wasn't efficient, and they missed some free throws late in that fourth quarter. That sucks, but the bench wasn't there. Other games you had like, okay, Luka and KP started and the bench was all right. We haven't put it all together yet. You know what I mean? Like, that's the thing. That's why I'm saying, like, the offense has looked pretty good, and it can get a lot better yet, let alone if they make some kind of move or something like that, if they can get another guy that can do some damage for you.
Yeah, I feel like they're going to have to make that move. Just my opinion, because I just feel like right now it's early and the guys are fresh, but it's an 82-game season, and we know how long that year is, and guys can tend to wear down. And what do you see usually most really goes down is that interior defense. So that's just my main concern that keeps popping up because, the West is strong. We know the West is strong, and there's a lot of good big men in the West. And that's going to be something that they're dealing with on a nightly basis. So I think that's just the only thing that keeps on shooting out in my brain that, yes, we got a really good perimeter team. We got different outlets and options on the perimeter side of the game. But when it comes to that interior, that can really hurt you down the line because when you get guys that are really inside that are rugged, it really puts the stress and strain on that defense and wears other guys down. And it's not like we're bringing guys off the bench that are really rugged as well. So you're going to have guys that may be playing a power forward position and they're not really a power forward, and then they're getting exposed. So I think they're going to have to make a deal, just in my opinion. I don't know who it's going to be, but I think we just got to get a guy who's a rugged guy. We need some interior defense because that's right now not shown because it's game 4, but it's gonna rear its ugly head later on down the season.
Yeah, no, I agree for sure. So as we get into this kind of last little segment here before we wrap up, what grade would you kind of issue for the team thus far? We'll get into the specific players, but what kind of grade would you mark the Mavericks through their first week?
First week, I'm gonna give us a B. I'm gonna give us a low B,
Yeah.
because obviously I think the defense, with the interior, I keep talking about it. I don't want to beat a dead horse, but I think that's the main thing that I see. Also, we definitely need a third scorer, to take the pressure off of Luka and KP. That they feel like they have to do it every single night.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes they might force it because they feel like they have to carry the weight and maybe might go away from the offense. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But I like a B right now because I didn't think the New Orleans game. I didn't think, because I like New Orleans. I mean, I don't like them, but they think they got a good team, especially when Zion Williamson comes back. They got a legit team. I mean, they got a good team.
Mm-hmm.
They brought in some good players, and then it really surprised me, banging with Portland the way we did. And that I don't care what anybody says, that Denver game was huge.
Yes.
I did not think we were going to win that game, especially in Denver. I thought that was going to be a blowout loss. You know what I'm saying? Especially the way our guys were playing, and that gets you excited. So I'm going with the solid B. We're starting out the gates 3-1, only 4 games in, but you really like where they're headed. 115 points a game. Luka and KP balling out really good, and I think they have really good chemistry together. You saw when KP came over, they instantly vibed and instantly bonded, and I think that's going to continue to grow. And when you have two guys that really seem like they're feeling each other, we've seen it. Jordan and Pippen. Now, I'm not saying those guys, but when you have a 1-2 combo and they really have a good relationship with each other, it takes the team. Everybody kind of jumps on their back and kind of flows with it. So I'm gonna give I keep saying I'm so Cowboy dominant. I'm so sorry, but I'm gonna give the Mavericks a low B right now, and we'll see how it goes from there.
Gotcha. I'd probably run with a B plus thus far. And like if you were to pose it to me as, hey, did you expect to start 3-1, or specifically, did you expect to go 2-0 on the road thus far? I definitely wouldn't have seen that coming. I would have guessed 2-2 out of the gate, with both losses being probably. Well, I probably would have thought a split in both cases. I would have thought you could get New Orleans. As I said, I thought they would be worse without Zion, or not. I thought they would be close to lost. They're not at all. They look like they're going to be a very tough opponent in that chase for the last Western Conference playoff spot. Portland, I would not have gone into that game. I said in that video, my expectation was I just wanted to see if Dallas could hang tight, hang around for 3.5 quarters, and then see if something happens. But that was a good measuring stick game. And what I saw, I know they're without Nurkic, but we were without our starting center as well, Dwight Powell, who is in the 90th percentile and finishing around the rim in the pick and roll. So you look at it that way, and it's like Nurkic means more to them than Powell does to us. But it's, name value tells you that's a huge split. It's not as big, at least in terms of the impact on his own team. So I looked at it that way, and I was like, damn, I felt like Dallas really measured up a lot closer to Portland than I would have expected in this situation. Granted, it's early, but you still had, their two guys going off and our two guys playing well in terms of point production, but not efficiently like their two were. So I looked at that, and I kind of took that for what it was. But then to kind of flip the script in the opposite direction with Denver and still come out with the win, at that point, I think that turned my opinion. My concerns are still the same as yours. I still don't like that we're getting out rebounded every game, although it's not the backbreaker yet that it was before. I mean, if you think about it, we're basically a coach's challenge away from 4-0. Like Dorian Finney-Smith was going to the line to shoot at least for the tie, if not the lead, with about 44 seconds left, I want to say. So it all skewed differently at that point. So it's one of those things where I feel like there are things to work on. I don't want to take for granted how much better they've done than I thought they would early on. Again, I didn't realize they were so close to 4-0 at this point. But I am also going to say free throws have been a little bit of a concern, interior defense, and rebounding a little bit. So there's plenty to improve on. We haven't found that third guy, but I am very, very pleased with this. I give a strong B+ through the first week. We're not going to do these every week, by the week analysis of the team.
Right.
But I felt like this one kind of worked out well and everything to look at them through the first snapshot of, all right, now we've gotten a taste of what this team is, kind of what do we think here. So yeah, I'd say that's a good mark for them. How would you kind of grade Luka and then KP? Because that's the main two people like to focus on here. We can do Luka, KP, and bench if we want.
All right. Well, maybe I'm a little biased, but I love me some Luka.
Yeah.
I love me some Luka. When we drafted him, when they were talking about getting him, and I watched his tape in those European leagues, I'm like, man, this dude is nice. Great size, and I mean, I'm gonna give him an A. Just, and I'm not trying to. Yes, he needs things. He still needs to work on because he's only 20 years old.
Yeah.
Okay, he just turned. He's not like an old 20. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So I mean, he's still learning the game, but his natural feel and his basketball IQ is just, to me, off the charts. And he can just do so many things. And with that size, he can post. You can take it to the hole. He can shoot that J. And man, dog, he be having the magical shots. You be seeing them 3-pointers he be hitting from deep, and people be all in his face and bow. So, according to what he's doing, we're 3-1 because of Luka.
Yeah.
Okay. We're 3-1 because of him, and he has carried us. So I'm gonna give him an A. KP, I'm gonna give him a low B because I like the rebounding, but I'd like to see him get over 10 rebounds a game because he can do it. Okay. Mm-hmm. I really feel like he can be a 20-10 guy. KP can be that guy, and getting a couple block shots a game, he can be that dude. I want him to get a little more consistency from the 3-point range, only shooting 33% right now. I think that's going to get better. He is only shooting 42% from the field right now.
Yep.
That needs to get better as well. So that's why I'm going to give him a low B. But, I'm not going to hit that C range because considering that he was out missing with that injury, months. Yeah, 20 months, and then coming in and performing the way he has, 22 points, 8 rebounds, about 3 assists a game. I like what he's bringing to the table, so I'm going to go ahead and give Luka an A, and I'm going to give KP a low B right now.
Yeah, that sounds pretty spot on, I would say. For me, I look at it as I'm going to give an A- to Luka. I think he's been, his free throw shooting has been much improved this year. I know he struggled a little bit late at the end of that Portland game. He started out like 10 of 11, and then I think he ended up 11 of 15. And even just 1 or 2 of those were huge. KP has also been a little iffy in terms of some of his shooting, even a little bit at the free throw line. But I think with KP, it's to be expected. Innie and I even talked about how, don't be surprised if his percentages aren't really where you want them, even the first month into the season. It's going to take time to knock that rust off to kind of get back into game condition, because you can try and replicate it as much as you want. Game condition is just different than anything else. If nothing else, just the way that your adrenaline gets going isn't the same, so therefore it's like you're depleting your reserves faster. So I think KP is Luka A-. I think he's played very well. There's a couple things in his game, but nothing major. Nothing major for me right now. But KP, yeah, I think a B is a good grade for him. I love the rim protecting angle he's bringing to it. I want those rebounds to stay consistent. Again, last 2 games have been on an uptick there, so I'm pleased with that. And the scoring is there. He had 32 points for us the other night. That's huge. His first 30-point game as a Maverick. It's just a matter of getting those percentages up, and I want to see him and Luka build some more rapport. I want to see some more pick and roll that way, and not the slip screen stuff. We've seen some of that. I want to see actual pick and roll in that way, and even flip it sometimes. You can still have KP do a little bit of damage off the dribble as well. Throw complex looks at teams, and I think that we'll see that. I think we have a coach that can implement that. It's just a matter of getting to that point, and maybe part of that just comes with the comfort level as he gets back into the swing of things. As for the bench, I would say the bench has been a solid B as well. Obviously, last night, if you gave me the context of one game, I would tell you it's an A+.
That's a damn A.
Yeah. But if we're going to say for the whole season, I'm going to say it's probably a B. Again, they came up a bit short, I felt, in the Portland game. The Washington game, they were fine. They've been pretty run-of-the-mill for the most part, although you have had guys who made standout plays. Again, I mentioned Curry, who I think has played very well. DeLon Wright has had 2 games where he came off the bench. New Orleans, he was the power forward in that lineup. But still, he's had games as well where he's come off the bench, and I feel like he's still been a very good impact. I think he's a pleasant surprise for sure. Curry and DeLon feel kind of like you pair them together, and that's your third guy, but you can't necessarily go with it that way. So, I'd say the bench has been solid. I think there's plenty of room for growth, though. We still haven't seen Boban. We still haven't seen J.J. Barea. Haven't seen Isaiah Roby, although I didn't expect to see the kid. He was taken 45th overall for a reason. He's with the Legends now. He was sent down to the Legends. I think that's a good place for him just because, while he does look like a Swiss Army knife of talent, he's very raw in all those areas. So I want to see Boban. I think you'll get a chance to see him in the upcoming games. I think Barea is very close to coming back off that Achilles. So I think the bench will get better. If Barea looks anything like, I'll say if you give me half of what Barea was last year, he'll give a lift to this bench that'll be needed and helpful. And Boban, I think he can bring a lot too. You just have to be spotty with how you use him.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I like our bench. Like I said, I'm gonna go with a B as well because you look at our record. I think the record dictates a B because we played some decent teams so far. Portland was banging in the West last year. We know what Denver brings to the table. New Orleans is a real surprise team.
Yeah.
So I really like, especially with those teams that we were able. They were all West teams. You know what I mean? And the West is difficult. So for us to come in there and go 2-1 in the West feels really good. And there's so many. I think there's a lot of moving parts with our bench. Just as you said, there's a lot of different guys that can come in at any given time can go off. Off the bench. And I think that's what I like. I think I still want to see our defense continue to step up with the guys coming off the bench. I like Jackson. I really like him coming off the bench. I know he's not going to start. I don't know if he's going to be starting, but I really like him for some reason. I just like the energy he brings. So
he's got a very good floater game, which is a forgotten art in today's NBA.
Forgotten game, and he's just really active. You know what I'm saying? I really like his activeness. So I like the solid B. I think it'll continue to grow. I like to see, like you said, Roby. He's a big boy, 6'8", 230 pounds, so he's kind of a rugged guy. I like to see what he can do to develop. Maybe he can bring some of that ruggedness to Dallas. Maybe later on down the year, if they call him back up, we'll see what that happens because he is a rookie.
Yeah.
So we'll see what goes there. But I do like the contributions from the bench. I like Hardaway to step his game up more. I really, really want Hardaway Jr. to step his game up more. He said himself he wants to be that third guy that can do the things and flow off of.
Specifically invoked Michael Finley.
You feel me? He said, I want to be that guy. So, but you can be that guy, Hardaway Jr., but you got to be consistent. Okay?
Yeah.
You can be that guy, and I like for you to be that guy, but you got to be consistent. You got to get that shooting percentage up, especially from three-point range. Got to be over 30%. That's just not good.
Yeah, he's about a career 34% three-point shooter. I think it'll round into form. The thing for me, that was my hesitation with him. I think he only played like 12 or so games for the Mavericks last year before his season was ended with he had like a stress reaction or something. He had to have a rod inserted into his left leg, I remember. But he was averaging in those games like 15 points a game as a Maverick, but he was taking like 14 shots to get it. And so he wasn't horribly efficient in that regard. And I think there are games he's going to help you. And he likes to say, like, he's an ignorant shooter. He's a guy that'll go out there and he'll just pull the trigger.
He'll see chuck something it up. He has no shame.
Yeah, he'll take just mind-bogglingly bad shots sometimes. And you're like, what are you doing? Like, he got a fast break the other game, and the Mavericks, like, setting up and everything like that. Like, he missed the alley-oop, gathers it, runs to the corner. The Mavericks are setting back up for the offense. And then he's just like, oh, you know what? I'm just going to shoot this corner three, and I brick it badly. Like, He just pulls the trigger sometimes, and that's, if you're hitting those shots, if you're J.R. Smith, good J.R. Smith, people love that. But if you're bricking shots and you're not hitting anything like he's in 3 or 4 games this year struggled with, then people are looking at you like, dude, what are you doing? Like, I'd rather you have at least tried to flip up a layup. If you couldn't hit the alley-oop dunk, at least throw a layup attempt up there so we have a chance at a rebound. Don't almost catch your own team by surprise where suddenly they're not looking to rebound because they're like, oh, I thought we were resetting, and here you are throwing up a shot when no one's looking for it.
Yeah, exactly. And he like you said, he's a guy that's got a trigger. He got a quick trigger, and he has to be able to shoot and score in the flow of the game and not just come out and knock the offense out of whack because you're trying to get your shot. Usually when you're in the flow, when you get a Luka getting to the hole or things of that nature, and he's kicking it back to you, and it's in the flow, not you going to the hole and just forcing it, making just bad plays. That's just not going to do it for you. And it's just going to hurt the team because you miss those kind of shots. They take it back down to score. It deflates the defense and it deflates the team. So you got to take good shots. I like you, Hardaway Jr. I thought it was a good pickup, but you got to step up and take good shots. You called him a volume scorer. I'm agree with you, but they got to be good volume shots for the sake of the team. Can't be just, I'm just chucking it up because I can, because you ain't the man.
Right. No, I agree. But overall, it's been a good start for the Mavericks. I mean, better than I anticipated. I expected something like 2-2, through the first 4. Again, very small sample size. But even in the one they lost, they were right there. They were a coach's review away from basically a 4-0 start potentially. So there's a lot to be hopeful for. They have a serious challenge this next game with the Lakers on their hands. But if they can get past that,
that'll be
they
dope.
have a lot. They have a chance. Like I don't mean like get past with a win. I'm saying like have a good showing again.
Look impressive.
Yes.
Don't
look like you belong. If you can
we
do
don't
that,
be
if
the
you can have a
flash in the
game like you
pan.
did with Portland, where you look like okay, you know,
Okay.
a couple things
They're
break
legit.
different if you execute better, fine. If you have something like that, then the next few games you can build serious momentum at that point, where you could be looking at something like a 7-2 start or something like that. Like that's what you need. It's the complete flip of the last 3 years through the first 10 games, and that will go a long way because the last 3 years, we pretty much knocked ourselves out of playoff contention within the first 20 games of the season, if not the first 10 games of the season.
Climbing out
This
of a
year,
hole.
if you can start hot, then at the very least you put yourself in the thick of contention and you're not trying to play catch up for 2/3 of the season.
Yeah, for sure.
So anyway, I think that's going to do it for our time here, guys. Thank you to everyone who tuned in. Got 68 people still in the house. Appreciate you all. We will be back on here again in the future. I know, James, you want to come on here and talk more Mavericks always.
Hell to the yeah.
Yeah, so we'll definitely be looking to do that. I will try to get another post-game show for the Mavericks out Friday night after that Laker game completes, and we'll go from there. I know I'm going to be out of town this weekend, but I don't think they play again until I'm back, so it should all be fine anyway. But that's going to do it for our time. Thank you for watching, and until next time, remember, every legend was once a prospect. Salute.
Peace.
And outro.